Well, welcome to our show. I'm Ernie Stadvik, and we've got some unusual people here today. An unusual gentleman standing next to me. This is the Freedom of Flight.
Wings of Freedom.
Wings of Freedom.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have to be corrected on that
That's
one.
okay.
Okay, you're with the Collings Foundation. Jim Harley, one of the pilots with the Collings Foundation. Can you tell me about the Collings Foundation?
Well, yeah, we're basically, by definition, we are a nonprofit educational foundation, and our goal is to bring these aircraft to the masses and display them to the public in a museum fashion where they can actually climb through them and go for a ride in them.
And you're doing that this morning at the Military Air Preservation Society Museum right down in the west side of Akron Airport, Akron-Canton Airport. Okay, Jim, can you tell us about your background in aviation?
Yeah, sure. I'm from Akron, Ohio, actually, and I started at this museum in '89. I was down here for a few years before I had to get a real job, and basically learned to fly out at Sky Park and parlayed that into flying with these guys.
And you told me that you got rid of some things. Can you tell it
Yeah.
and went into this full time? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, well, about 5 years ago, an opportunity arose with the foundation, and they needed somebody full time, basically 11 months on the road. So I closed down my business, sold my house, and my fiance and I parted ways, and I haven't looked back. So here I am.
And what kind of business were you in?
I was a commercial artist.
Well, that's a switcheroo. Now you're a B-25 pilot.
Yeah, my passion's always been, my first love is flying, and this just came up at the right time. I was at the right place and changed careers.
Well, what a life you have. Now, tomorrow you're going to fly the big one, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I'm co-pilot on the B-24 tomorrow, so we're not plane specific out here. We get in whenever they need us in, and we go.
So you switch around to all of them, even on the B-17?
Yeah, I've got quite a few hours in all three of them, so we're not, like I said, non-plane specific.
Non-plane specific. Boy, you're using fancy language for a pilot. You mean you get to fly all of them,
I get
right?
to fly all.
Well,
of them.
what a
Yeah, I get
life
right
this
down to
guy has got.
That's it. Yeah, it's a lot of
And
fun.
do you live in Stowe? Or?
No, actually, my family still lives in Akron, and I sold my house, so I'm basically a gypsy. We live hotel to hotel, so I'm life on the road.
You're up here in the north in summertime, and in the south in the wintertime?
That's correct. We start in Florida in January,
Mhm.
and we run for 11 months. We start in Florida and we end in Florida. So we do 140 cities on average in 38 states in a year.
Is this thing self-sustaining up to a point?
No, we're all volunteers.
Mhm.
We're all volunteer staff. The aircraft, all the donations, the rides, T-shirts, our gate sales, all go into keeping the aircraft flying. So that's our mainstay.
Another interesting point. Well, how do you support yourself?
Well, we get $20 a day in a room, and I had some savings, so I'm kind of living off that.
What a life you got, just flying 11 months out of the year in these old airplanes.
That's it.
I kind of envy you on that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give up my business or my house
it's-
or my wife, you know.
It's a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice. But
I guess it is. Well, thanks a lot for being with us, Jim.
yes, sir. Thank
And
you for
we're
having
gonna,
us.
we're gonna. And when are you gonna fly now?
I'm flying tomorrow morning in the 24. So,
And who's flying the B-25 today?
Rob Collings and Caroline Collings of the Collings Foundation.
And the B-17?
Max Hodges, or I'm sorry, Mac McCulley and Roger Christie.
Now, what are their backgrounds?
Well, Mac's a retired businessman. He fell into it the same way I did, and Roger's a retired Army pilot. And of course, Rob and Caroline are part of the Collings Foundation, so they're pretty much married to it.
Did their father start the foundation?
Rob's father did, yes.
Boy, that's great.
Yeah. So
What a way to live.
absolutely, you
Great.
know it.
Thanks again for being
Thank
with
you.
us,
You
Jim.
betcha. Thank you for having us.
Okay, we have the big boss here, Rob Collings of the Collings Foundation. Rob, thanks for coming over to talk with us. And can you tell us a little bit about your foundation and what you fellows do, the airplanes you fly?
The Collins Foundation was started in 1979 to preserve living history events. In the mid-'80s, it transitioned from automobiles into aircraft, and we have about 22 aircraft total now. The main focus has been on the Wings of Freedom Tour, the B-17, B-24, and B-25 that tour all over the country. So we're a traveling museum. We go to about 120 stops annually to share these aircraft with the public. And they're meant to be a memorial for the guys who never made it home, a gathering spot for the veterans to come out and show their children and grandchildren what it was they flew during the war, and a museum for the younger generations, but an interactive one where they can get inside the aircraft and touch and feel it and get more of the experience, and even go for a flight. So it's important pieces of history we have out here, and it's left to us to keep it alive.
You guys are doing a great work here. Now, what is your background in aviation?
My aviation background is all in warbirds. I've been flying, and I soloed in a Stearman when I was 16 and moved into a T6 and been flying these and a lot of other aircraft. So I kind of grew up the old-fashioned way, if you will.
You from the ground up, so to speak. Okay, now you're qualified in all of these airplanes,
Yes.
and how many hours would you have in each airplane?
I have almost 3,000 hours in the B-24 and a little over 1,000 in the B-17 and on under 1,000 in the B-25.
You've got more than a lot of guys that flew these things in World War II.
Well, it's easier for me to build up the time because we're not getting shot at today, and we're flying every day. And during the war, really, the lifespan of the life cycle of the B-24 as a weapon system was about 4 or 5 years. At the end of the war, they were obsolete, and there weren't many at the beginning. So there weren't many guys who flew them for 4 years. And even if you're an instructor pilot, to get 3,000 hours in 4 years is tough. I've been flying them for 18 years, so it's a little easier for me to build up the time.
When you come out of cadets, I think you had about 240 hours. These guys went in and
That's probably right. They weren't looking for high-time pilots. They were looking to train them the way they wanted to. And yeah, even if you flew 50 missions and they were 8-hour missions, that's still under 500 hours.
well, I understand there's about 12,000 24s built, and there's how many flying now besides yours?
Actually, there are about 18,500 B-24s built. It's the most produced American military aircraft in history. And today, this is the last B-24 flying. So it's a very, very rare aircraft. B-17s were about 12,500, and today there's 11 in the world. So both are extraordinarily rare pieces of history.
Do you have plenty of parts to support it?
We're always looking for parts, and yes, we are comfortable with our maintainability into the future.
Well, isn't there one down at Harlingen with the Commemorative Air Force? They brought one into one of our air shows at Akron.
Yeah, there is. It's a very rare aircraft, actually. It's a C-87, and it was built as a transport or converted into a transport, being the first of the cargo versions, which had an extraordinarily important role in the war. A little known fact is that type of aircraft was the first Air Force One.
First Air Force One. I think there's a C-87 that was owned after the war by a machine company in Salem, Ohio.
There were a few C-87s that survived after the war. Continental Can, I think Timken Bearing might have had one. There were a few, and Morrison Knudsen up in Alaska. They were an extraordinarily aircraft because it had about a 3,000 plus mile range. So you could go a long ways before any other aircraft could go very far. And it made it a great, fast, relatively fast executive transport for the time.
Do you remember the writer Ernest K. Gann was also a captain of American Airlines and all? And he flew the C-87. And he told about the account when he narrowly missed the Taj Mahal because he's overloaded.
Yeah, they flew a very dangerous role, even though they weren't getting shot at, flying the Himalayas or the hump from India into China, bringing fuel in. They had a version called the C-109, which was a tanker, basically, version of the B-24. And to be flying over peaks that go up to 30,000 feet, an airplane that won't go to 30,000 feet is pretty impressive stuff.
Those were cold airplanes in those days, weren't they? The B-17, can you tell us about that?
Well, the B-17, I fondly refer to it as the movie star bomber because it's so well known. And as a result of its notoriety during the war, a lot of movies were made about the B-17 or surrounding the B-17 after the war, like the remake of Memphis Belle. Everyone grew up with 12 O'Clock High, the movie The War Lover, things like that. Makes the B-17 a much more recognizable aircraft today.
And how many of those are flying it?
11 out of 12,500.
You know, some years back, my wife and I are driving across Florida, going to the Piper factory, and there's a B-17 up on stilts, and a guy used it to blow air over his orange grove.
That could well be. I'm sure it's gone today.
Oh, yeah. And several of them were above restaurants, from what I understand.
The famous one is up in Oregon, the Lacey's Bomber Cafe or Bomber gas station, and it was used as the awning for a gas station for years, and part of it's still up there. They've been trying to restore it, but that's about the only one that survives aside of the the Air Force Museum and Memorial type aircraft, which are sadly left outside, rotting away.
How about the B-25 now?
B-25s are a very famous aircraft. Of course, Jimmy Doolittle flew the daring raid over Tokyo shortly after Pearl Harbor. That's probably what they're most known for. Today, B-25s are probably the most prevalent of the World War II bombers out there. There might be about 25 or so that are still left flying. So it's a wonderful aircraft, and it's one that is shared with the public more than probably others.
Well, what model was this?
This is a J, B-25J that we have out here. When Doolittle flew the raid, that was early, like a C model. I don't think any of those survive to this day.
Well, this was converted military then. Was it a gunship?
Well, actually, our particular aircraft out here was a trainer during the war, and they used B-25s for conversion training. And then after the war, they used it as a multi-engine trainer. So it flew with the Air Force until the 50s, and it never saw combat.
Well, in leafing through a B-25 book, some of them had a tremendous amount of firepower in the nose.
That's true. They actually had more firepower than any other aircraft during the war. They could put 850 caliber machine guns in a solid gun nose. After 1944, there were no B-25s built going to the Pacific with a bombardier's nose. They were all gunships. In addition to that, they had pack guns that mount on the side, another 4 forward-firing 50 caliber, so they have 8 plus 4 fixed machine guns, and then the top turret can be fired forward, so you have up to 14 50 caliber machine guns firing forward. That can slice up quite a lot.
That's a lot of lead. How about the cannon they had in the nose?
It's an H model, which it was equipped with 4 50 caliber machine guns, and then the pack gun, so it had 8 forward-firing 50 caliber machine guns, but that wasn't quite enough. They had to put in a 75 millimeter cannon, which is the same size cannon used in a Sherman tank.
When that thing let go, everybody was deaf.
Yeah, I think so. You're deaf after flying that airplane for a while anyway.
Really? Well, thanks a lot for being with us,
My
Rob. It was
pleasure.
interesting. We enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Well, we're talking to a lady here whom I think is the ultimate in women's liberation. She flies military bombers, ex-military bombers from World War II. Caroline Collings.
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been flying?
I've been flying the bombers for about 10 years.
And what did you fly before then?
Oh, I flew commercially for a company out of Raleigh, flew turboprops, and I've been flying some jet aircraft as well.
What kind of jet airplanes?
Corporate jets like Learjets and so forth.
What company did you fly for? Did you want to say? Or?
Oh, sure. I flew for a company called Carolina Sky Sports up in, it's north of Raleigh. In North
How'd you
Carolina.
get involved in this?
I was just very fortunate to land into an airport one day where the bombers were at, and that was at a time when they needed a co-pilot. And since I had the right qualifications, they asked me if I wanted to join the team, and I did. So
You're a real member of the team here. And you were a first pilot on all of these airplanes?
I fly as first pilot on the B-24 Liberator. I am hoping to get my type rating in the B-25 this year, and then the B-17 next year.
Now, where do you go to get a type rating? Are there FAA guys around that are still qualified to give type ratings?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we had one check ride yesterday for a B-24 captain. So we have a designated examiner from the FAA that comes out, and we do a regular airline transport check ride.
You've got an airline transport rating? Obviously, you have to with that airplane, don't you?
You don't have to, but I do. You are only required to have a commercial rating for the type of operation that we do.
How many hours do you have in the B-24?
Probably about 1,500 so far.
As captain?
Not all as captain. I flew for a while as a co-pilot.
Are you qualified in the 25 also?
I fly as co-pilot in the 25.
And how about the B-17?
And co-pilot in that too, but I hope to become captain here not too long in the 25, and then next year in the 17.
What a life you've got. We're just making a lot of women out there envious. They're going to hate you because of the life you've got. Adventurous, and you're on the road how much?
Well, the planes travel 10 months out of the year. I probably do about 6 to 8 months on the road, and it's very enjoyable. I enjoy the flying a lot, and I enjoy meeting the people around it, especially the veterans and also the children that come out. It's very enjoyable.
And where do you go from here?
I go to Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
And then where's your tour after that?
Well, we'll be going out towards the East Coast and eventually end up in Florida in November. And there we stop our tour for the season for a couple of months of heavy maintenance.
And then after you finish with this, what do? Just take it easy and vacation?
Yeah. Enjoy, staying at home for a while, not staying in hotels.
You probably go flying, don't you? Postman's holiday.
Yeah, I do a little bit of that when I get home, but not too much actually, since it's winter time. It's not too much of the flying then.
Do you have a family also?
Yeah, I believe you just interviewed my husband.
Oh yeah, we sure did.
Yeah, we don't have any children yet though.
Be pretty tough, wouldn't it, on a family life with children to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I think so.
What a life you've got. And you fly those jets they have down in Texas?
No, I've been flying some corporate jets out of Florida though.
Well, thanks a lot for being with us, Mrs. Collings of the Collings Foundation. And she's got 1,500 hours in a B-24. That's a record. I don't think any woman in the world would touch that record. And it's going up every time you fly.
Yeah.
And not many men, even for World War II, would have that many hours in a B-24.
No.
Because you just didn't get that. I was in World War II. When you finished cadets, you had something like 240 hours.
Yeah.
And you checked out in these airplanes. Not as a first pilot, but as a co-pilot. Well, thanks a lot for being with us. It's really nice talking to you.
All right. Thanks for being here.
We're out on the ramp at MAPS Museum, and we've got a big guy standing here in front of this big airplane. Does it always take a big guy to fly these machines?
No, actually, during the war, they were very small guys.
Guys like me, because I was in World War II.
Absolutely, yeah. It was right after the Depression and pre-McDonald's. So everybody was pretty small and pretty thin.
You got that right. And your name, sir?
Mac McCauley, M-C-C-A-U-L-E-Y.
And you've been flying the 17?
This is my 8th season.
And how many hours do you have in this?
About 2,700.
A lot of guys in World War II didn't even get that far.
Yeah, well, that's a shame.
And you've got a great job. Probably a very envious job. That's all you do year-round?
They keep telling me that, yeah. I guess I do.
Have you ever flown these in any of the movies?
No, we haven't. This particular airplane hasn't been. It stays on the road most all year, so there's commitments for that doesn't really have a chance to.
And so you're on the road for how long?
10 months out of the year.
10? What a job.
Oh, yeah.
A perfect job.
And we fly every day. These things fly every single day.
And it's a testimonial to the manufacture and the design and everything else. Of course, you pilots, you don't bust them up.
No, that's true. We take it a lot easier on than they did during the war. And we maintain them real well out here.
And nobody's shooting at you.
And nobody's shooting at
Okay.
us. And we're not freezing to death at 30,000 feet.
Okay, I see you're wearing your uniform for the summertime.
This is my
Yeah.
summer uniform,
Okay.
yeah.
What is your background in aviation?
Basically a general aviation commercial pilot, mainly antiques, movie work, commercials, and things of that nature.
And how did you get in with Collins?
I met him one day at an air show, and a friend of mine did, and he decided to go with him for a little while as a co-pilot. And then after I retired, he asked me to come along, and that was 8 years ago, and I've been with him ever since.
What did you retire from? What type work?
Chemical engineering.
Well, a lot of smart guys here flying these airplanes. Thanks a lot, Mac, for being with us.
Thank you for
And
coming.
lots of happy flying.
Well, thank you very much. Take care.
Well, we're here standing in front of this huge machine, flying machine from World War II, a B-24, better known as Liberator. And one of the pilots for the foundation is standing right here. And all these guys are big at flying these airplanes. During World War II, when I was there, everybody was short. But you guys evidently were fed well. And your name, sir?
I'm Jeff Whitesell with the Collings Foundation.
Jeff, it's a pleasure. And can you tell us how long you've been flying?
I've been flying with the Collings Foundation for 5 years.
And what did you do before then?
Well, I still fly for Delta Airlines. It's my real job.
Oh, you're a captain with Delta?
In about an hour, I'm going to run and put on my jet jammies and go back to work.
What do you fly with Delta?
The 757.
757. Well, and you're a postman's holiday to fly this.
My wife uses a slightly stronger term.
And you had a check ride yesterday?
Yes, sir. Checked out Captain last night.
And where did the inspector come from? Cleveland?
He was from Detroit.
And he is qualified in this? You wonder if any of these guys are left that are qualified in these airplanes.
We're getting pretty rare.
And you've been with Collings for 5 years now?
That's correct.
Well, you don't go on the tour year-round, do you?
If it was up to me, I would. They're out here 10 months of the year, and I usually get out 5 or 6 times a year.
And how many hours do you have in the B-24?
Well, as of last night, 95 hours.
Well, you're moving up there.
Well, when you think about the fact that our rides are 20 minutes long, that gives you an idea how long it takes to get 95 hours.
You get a lot of takeoffs and landings then. Of course, do you remember a fellow by the name of Colonel Addison Baker from Akron?
Yes, learned about him reading it in the newspaper yesterday and recalled, the incredible missions that they had.
Yeah, he was one of the lead pilots on the Ploesti raid, received the Medal of Honor, and he still has relatives here in Akron.
I don't know how they did it. I'm exhausted after a day of flying this airplane, and I didn't have anybody throwing bullets at me.
Well, maybe if you hang in there, somebody will. How long have you been with Delta?
Well, I've been flying 37 years, and I've been with Delta since the merger. They bought Western Airlines back in 1986.
And when will you be retiring?
About the time I'm 107. I've got, now, potentially 12 years to go with the new age.
When they go up to 65, are you going to? Has that gone through?
Well, it's in the making. I think it'll go through, and I'm counting on being here.
So you're going to hang in on that.
Oh,
Plus,
yeah.
you're going to fly the 24.
I got 3 kids to put through college.
Oh my! And then, are you qualified in the 17 and the 25?
Not yet. I hope.
Well, great. Thanks a lot for talking with us.
My pleasure, sir.
ESCO has been in business since 1954, serving the Akron area for quality, fast printing, and copying. ESCO is not about airplanes and airplane manuals, although we are the largest in the world for reproducing, buying, and selling manuals of all types to the aircraft industry, military, civilian, and general aviation. But we also do booklets. We do newsletters. We do books for folks right here in the Akron area. And people make ESCO go. Our people have been with us for 20 years, 14 years, and 12 years. Remember to give ESCO a call for all your printing needs, 330-644-7724. And our website is ESCO Aircraft. This interview can be titled Local Boy Makes Good. Jim Hardy, one of the pilots here at the Collings Foundation, is going to tell us about the B-25. Jim?
Yeah, behind us here is the North American B-25 Mitchell. It was made famous during the war as the Doolittle Raider. 16 of them took off the USS Hornet to bomb Japan right after Pearl Harbor. And it's one of the better-known World War II medium bombers.
And how many hours do you have in this?
Oh, I'm getting close to about 200 hours in it. It's a great machine to fly.
And you're flying all the other airplanes as well?
Yeah, I fly co-pilot in the other 2 aircraft. And yeah, it's quite a joy and it's an honor to fly these airplanes.
Well, we talked to you in the inside, and you have got a tremendous job. Now, how do I apply for this?
Well, you got to give up your life, basically, and join the circus. Yeah, I'm from Akron, Ohio, and 5 years ago, the foundation needed somebody to do logistics, and I jumped on it and pretty much sold everything, got out of Dodge, and joined the crew here, and I've been flying with them for the last 5 years.
And you escaped from Akron. But an Akron boy makes good here.
Yeah, I got out of Akron.
Okay, what does it feel like flying these big airplanes?
They're incredible aircraft. They're not like today's aircraft at all, where you have electronics and hydraulics and all that fun stuff. These are all Armstrong airplanes. The cables go right from the yoke right to the control surfaces, so you feel everything.
Okay, by Armstrong, that's an old military term. What do you mean by that?
You're using muscle. It's all muscle to fly the airplanes, and it's quite the unique experience.
And do you feel up there? You're high off the ground, and what do you feel on the landing?
Well, you want to make a good one, obviously, and you don't want to bend the airplane, and you always work for a good landing, and they're very easy to land. There were kids coming out of flight school at 300-400 hours, and they sent them right into combat. So they're not that tough to fly. You just want to make sure you do it right, and
you're close to the ground when you land, right?
Yeah, you have to be close to the ground when you land.
Yeah, that's the main thing. One time I interviewed a C-5A pilot, and I asked him, what does it feel like to fly this huge airplane? He said, it feels like God.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I'm not an Air Force jockey, but makes you religious. I'll say that.
But once again, you've made a lot of people. We're on about 1.1 million households, and you probably have made 900,000 men mad at you because you've got the perfect job.
Yeah, I get up every day and I pinch myself. I get to go fly a World War II bomber. And there's nothing better I can think of doing right now than doing what I'm doing. And it honors the veterans, and that's our real mission out here, is make sure the memories are kept alive and make sure that they're able to see their aircraft and show their families.
Well, Jim, thanks a lot for being with us again. It's always nice talking to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having us out here and putting on a good show for us.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Stadvik, Vice President and General Manager at ESCO Incorporated and Stadvik Inc. We've been serving the Akron area since 1954 with quality copying, fast print, color copying, digital archiving, and laminating at low prices. Let's meet some of our experienced staff.